So what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 2 a.m. in Sweden, aka We Got Next. I'm one of your hosts of the show, Hayes, aka Shifty, with the one, the only, the special guest, the friend of the show, the co-host of the show, Steven. Steven at Steven_Springs. What's up, man? How you been?
Um, we're good. I feel like I'm really out of fucks to give for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Like I'm
Okay.
done. Like work is hectic. The kids are off like every day. It seems like half days, whatever.
Yep.
Holidays are end of the year is always stressful for whatever reasons, but other than that, dude, we're thriving. We're good. We're heading in the right direction.
So my question to you, because of obviously you have kids, how do you end up doing it when your kids are not in school? Do you end up making sure to stay with them? Do you guys have to figure out what to do? Do you take off?
Do you see that door right there? It
Mhm.
never opens. That door is always closed. That door is never open during the day. Um,
Okay.
Probably up until like a year ago, maybe two. Probably like a year ago when Mason was in preschool. I had to be upstairs with him. Just,
Hmm.
you know, I think I started doing it and I just like was up there and I would work the back half of the day. Hang on. I have a friend dropping something off, so I need to get him take a quick
Oh
break.
my
I'll be
God.
back in like 2 seconds.
No, you're fine. So what I want to end up talking to everyone about a little bit is the 76ers. That was going to be our hot take. And then we were going to kind of go into everything in terms of the college football playoffs and stuff. But this NBA season has been different, to say the least. So I wanted to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. I wanted to talk about um, Fred VanVleet, for anyone that has not seen what's been going on with him. So the first thing with the Philadelphia 76ers that I think a lot of people should take note of or pay attention to is Jordan McCain is actually the best player on the Sixers right now. Of course, Tyrese Maxey has been in and out of playing. And then on top of that, Joel Embiid, they have their thoughts. And then Paul George is another one that has been injured. Paul George, just to go off of that, um, big thing with him is he has had previous knee injuries. So, kind of him having injuries right now, you kind of want to take him slow. A couple of things just going off of something like that is I still think that they're going to be in the playoffs. Are they going to have a great seed? Probably not, but it's such a long season in terms of the NBA that you could be, as long as you're not, the Wizards, you could be all the way in last place. So 15, 16 seed, and you could find a way to make it up. For starters, the Washington Wizards are 2-13 already. If anyone wants to know for context, the Detroit Pistons are already 8-11. So they're doing much better than they did last year. On the
Mhm.
flip side, the Pelicans are 4-14. The Utah Jazz are 4-12. But the other part before I go into the Fred VanVleet and then give some time for Steven is so the Sixers they were saying are not doing good, as everyone knows. And then they said, can anyone guess who has the Sixers protected first round pick?
The fucking Thunder, dude. They have everyone's they have everyone's first round pick for the next like 70 years, I feel like. That's
And
crazy. They snagged them all within like a couple year span of trades and stuff.
they did. And
Like it
people at
wasn't
the
even, it wasn't
time,
like they built this up over like 15 years.
no.
This is built up over
Mm-mm.
like 3 years and they just took everyone's first round picks. And
Yep.
they just got lucky with them that those picks are, top 10 picks or so,
Yeah.
which is wild.
So, and the crazy part about that, when you have picks such as the ones that the Thunder have in so many and a plethora, you can miss and it doesn't even matter because you have so many chances and opportunities. Like you had Chet, and then you ended up getting a lot of your other pieces that you have that are just going to develop over time. You have the Williams brother, not the brothers. I call them the brothers because they have the same last name. But you have all of them that are there. You also had Gordon Hayward at one point, Alex Caruso, and you just get these various players. I'll ask you first. Do you think this will ever be a place that superstars want to go, or do you think they have to build from the ground up?
Um, yeah, I think like they're not gonna have to pay everybody crazy money. Like they're gonna have to pay Chet for sure once his rookie deal is up. I think he'll get a max deal, but I don't know, how crazy that'll be. But
Hmm.
let's say over the next couple of years, if they make a run, yeah, probably. I wouldn't say it would be like when LeBron was in Miami, or Cleveland's also going to be one of those stops. But I don't know, Oklahoma City. How appealing is that? It's not, but
Um,
on that same token, but it's also like the guys there now. A lot of them were drafted there. So it's not like they signed with them. They didn't have a choice. They were drafted to them. So
mhm.
they're making it work in OKC. If they make a little run, sure. Yeah, I could see that happening. Um, I mean, they drafted Westbrook, Durant, and Harden. So it's not like they teamed up and said, okay, we're going to go to Oklahoma City, because no one ever says that.
Nope.
If they move back to Seattle, hell yeah. It's a definitely a free agency destination. But you'll probably get some guys. There's old heads that want to win, a championship, but I wouldn't say any like big time free agent would go there.
Yeah.
Like, unless
So
they are like a perennial title contender over the next 3 seasons, which they could be,
yeah.
but I think it's going to take a lot to get there.
So just for anyone that is curious about how the West kind of looks, number one is the Thunder. Number two, believe it or not, is the Warriors. And number three is actually the one I want to talk about, is the Houston Rockets. And please tell me you have heard about my superstar himself, Fred VanVleet, and the way he just does not care about cussing at the refs and pulling essentially a Kelly Oubre part two.
So he did an interview, or he was his post game interview. I think a couple of years ago when when he was in Toronto. I can't remember, but he went at Ben Taylor, who's one of the referees, and he's like, I don't care if I get fined. I gotta say this. Like, Ben Taylor was fucking terrible, and he just went off on like a 2-minute rant on how bad some of these officials are. And he's like, usually you got the 3 refs, like 2 or 3 of them just want to fuck shit up for the game. He's like, and they're fucking terrible. And he went on just a epic rant about just not caring. He's like, I'm gonna get my money's worth. But he's right. But shout out to Fred Van Vliet though.
Yeah,
I always thought for the longest time it was
Fred VanVleet.
Van Fleet, but it's not.
Yeah.
We were all fucking that up for a long time, even in college. Um,
Exactly.
but I appreciate those players. Like, I appreciate, like, he's, I have nothing against Van Vliet. Like, seems like a dope dude, light skinned guy, good cut.
Hmm.
But you need one of like those OG type of players on your team. I mean, he's not like, he's not a 37-year-old player yet, but he's been around for a while. So he's like that old school vet guy that's on the team. So that's good for them though. Lakers play tonight. Lakers and Suns play tonight, by the way.
Okay, so those are the next 2 things. So the first one is in terms of the Houston Rockets, they put a team together too. I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to stay number
No.
3, but they
No.
put a solid team together so far. I can see, of course, the Nuggets, the Mavericks moving up. Timberwolves, they're going to be fine as well. But the Lakers. So for anyone that does not remember in the beginning, I would joke around and say it, but I was serious. Their best starting lineup is probably putting the 2 white boys in, and it's
Yeah.
solid having AR and Don't Connect, and then you have Anthony Davis and LeBron. They
Yeah.
were saying the Lakers know how to find that legit one, because they had Austin Reeves, they had Don't Connect, you had Alex Caruso,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been good, and they go on to play in other places and get solid contracts
Yep.
as well.
I
So,
would.
but what are your thoughts? Because that's your team.
Yeah. I would say that the Rockets are like the Pistons of the West. Like, they're young, they run up and down. They do need, like, both those teams need some veteran guys in that squad to really like say, hey, this is like the championship mindset. Now they'll probably both. I feel like the Pistons can make the playoffs. It's still the Pistons, so my confidence level isn't that high. Same thing with the Rockets. You expect those teams to both kind of like fall apart a little bit because they just run out of steam.
Hmm.
But I think those two teams are very similar. As for the Lakers, I got the Lakers in 5. Duh. But you got, like, their bench is just not super productive. You got D'Lo coming off the bench, but I think D'Lo needs to be like that 16, like that 6 man. He needs to be that guy. He needs to be like that 15, 16 point game, points a game guy. He's doing good on defense. He's gotten some steals, assists, and whatnot. But I think he needs to score. But I also think you should put a guy like Rui Hachimura on the bench as well and have Dalton connect because their bench is lacking. I think you need to have that, Caruso, LeBron, connect, AD. I think you need to have that so you can get off to good starts and not have to like mount the comeback or anything. And the Lakers have been fine. Like they've lost 2 in a row. They played like shit, and I think the Nuggets went on a 50-13 run at one point over the course of like a quarter and a half. But the Lakers have been off since Saturday, so they're rested. It's in Phoenix. Phoenix is still without Durant. I don't know who knows when he's coming back. That's a calf injury. We know how that went the last time. But
that was serious.
The Lakers are what? They're 10-6. They're 4th, 5th in the West. I think they're 4th or 5th.
Yep,
4th.
They're behind the Rockets.
They're 4th in the West. Like no one's saying a word right now because they're 4th in the West. This is where they should be. Like they should be. And both AD and LeBron have had weaker games the last few games. They had a good stretch to start the season, but I'm never gonna bet against LeBron. Like I'm still always gonna pick whatever team he's on. It's like I'm gonna pick the Lakers. AD is having an MVP caliber season so far to start, averaging 30 and 11. So yeah, I trust the Lakers more than I trust every other team in the West, probably other than Denver. But and Jokic is averaging a triple double. No one's talking about that.
Nope.
And also like I don't watch the NBA as intently as I used to. Now I'll check the box scores, watch the highlights, do all the follow-ups and the check-ins, but man, it's gonna be tough for him to not average a triple double this season. He's at like 11.3 assists per game. Like that's gonna take like some a stretch of really bad games in the assist category for which that just doesn't happen. Even if it's at like 8, 9, 10 every now and then, like he's still gonna be there. So that's no one's talking about that because I think this is what we expect now. But nonetheless, I trust the Lakers more than I probably trust most teams outside of the Nuggets. But it's always a nice story to see teams like the Rockets up there.
Oh, for sure. So kind of going into the other part, because I think we talked a lot about the NBA and the hot take of it all. I want to talk about what came out earlier today, and that was the college football playoffs. So kind of the first thing, I want to kind of go on the upsets and stuff that happen or teams that are surprised, and then I want you to take the floor with it. Number 1, Arizona State. They're number 16, technically by the seeds and stuff, but Colorado lost. What are your thoughts on the low hit on Shedeur that you saw?
Yeah, that was probably one of the more egregious, just blatant cheap shots I've seen in a long time. We all know my love affair with Colorado or lack of, but that was a dirty hit. Defender had no intentions of going anywhere but the knees, and and Shedeur is lucky his knee wasn't like straight planted because that shit would have snapped. It would have snapped right in half.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter had a big game, but they lost. Like, if your team ends up 9-3 or 8-4, like you should not win the Heisman, and that's a whole other conversation that I'll be having on the Quick Slants this week, Thursday. But if your team is 8-4, 9-3, I don't think you should win the Heisman. Like, and his numbers are not like it's not like he has 1,300 yards receiving and like 6 picks. He's like having like average numbers on both sides of the ball. I get he's doing both, and this is a whole other conversation. Anyway, shout out to Kansas for getting that W.
Indiana lost.
Indiana, like I don't know why anyone would pick Indiana to win that game against Ohio State. I'll talk about this on the podcast as well about the rankings. Like, I see a lot of people talking about South Carolina, who's 8-3 right now, making the playoffs if they beat Clemson this weekend. No, like 3 losses. Like, I see people talking about a couple weeks ago, people were talking about Georgia when they were like 7-2, talking about they have 2 losses. They have the number 1 strength schedule. That's awesome, dude. Great, congrats. You got 2 losses though. Like, you play who's in front of you. And I saw someone this weekend, Josh Payton. He's a college football guy. He was talking about Ole Miss losing to Florida, and he was saying, "Don't look at Florida being 5-5 in this game. They were playing." He didn't say this, but he basically said like Florida's playing more like a 10-0 team than a 5-5 team. I don't know what that even means, but like that's what like people. It's all in the SEC
Eye
stuff.
test.
It's all the SEC stuff. Yeah, it's all the SEC stuff, and like it's crazy. But the playoff rankings came out. Now obviously my phone's blowing up all the time during this, but the rankings are as followed with this. Top 5 did not change. Actually, it did change. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State. Top 4 did not change. Or Notre Dame demolished Army. They moved up. Miami at 6, Georgia 7, Tennessee 8, SMU out of the ACC at 9. Indiana fell at 10 after losing. Boise State 11, Clemson at 12. I forget what the bracket.
So can I ask you a question, Stephen?
Yeah.
So my first question with all of this is, because for people that don't understand it at all, so Clemson's not in, Alabama's not in, and then you also have South Carolina and Ole Miss that are technically not in. Why is it that, of course I know, but why is it that they are not in, but then you have 16 ranked Arizona State that is technically in when you do seeding?
Yeah. So it's about like the conference leaders and like champions or something like that. I cannot, like, they say it every week, and I should know this by now because I talk about it more than anybody. But I don't really know like that part. Like I don't get how it works sometimes. So the top 5. Someone actually sent me the rankings, and I'll tell you in a second. Okay, so the top 10 goes as followed: Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Miami, Georgia, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana, Boise State, Arizona State. Arizona State is leading the Pac-12 right now. That's why they're in. But even though BYU is ranked ahead of them, I believe, they beat BYU. So, and then Colorado lost. So now Arizona State is, they were ranked like, I think 22nd or something like that. So they weren't going to jump up to like 12. But by way of being the conference leader right now, they're in there. However, they're ranked the 12th seed because they're the worst out of everybody else. So same thing with Boise State. Boise State is ranked 11th, but they're the 4th highest ranked conference champion should the season end today. So like it makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't. They should just do away with that and just do the top 12 and not have like the top 4. Like the top 4 is Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State. Those 4 teams should have the bye, and then like everybody else after that. You don't need to have like conference winners being, because there's 5 conference champions, and like the top 4 teams get a bye. That again, that type of thing doesn't make sense. So anyway, the 4 teams getting a bye.
This is the first time Ohio State ever goes to Idaho.
Yeah, like who, but that's what, like, I was just about to say, who wants to see that? Everybody wants to see that. Like everybody wants to see Ashton T go up against like a really good team, so they could get a chance. The season ends today, which if things kind of stay the same over the next couple weeks and conference winners, if things stay the same, this would be pretty solid. So the top 4 seeds would be Oregon, Texas, Miami, Boise State. So those teams would get a bye. Also, I totally forgot, second round matchups are not at home. So those would be like the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl, whatever. I wish those were home games because that would be good though, in Boise. So then the first round matchups, and these are all home games. Notre Dame would host SMU. Penn State would host Indiana. We'd fuck them up. Georgia would host Tennessee, and Ohio State would host Arizona State. As you remember, Arizona State is ranked 16th, but somehow they are 12th seed. So there you go. There's that. This week, people should be pretty okay with things. Georgia fans should be happy. They're hosting Tennessee. So I think this is very fair. Now, it's still 2 weeks left between final games of the regular season and then conference championship games after that. Penn State can sneak into the Big Ten title game, by the way, if Michigan beats Ohio State. I don't see it happening, but Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
But this week, I
So
don't think a lot of people should not be bitching this week. By the way, but they will be, and I will absolutely be attacking them on Twitter. So if you want to have some
yeah.
fun, follow me on Twitter when I attack every fan base possible and every team possible.
So I want to get one takeaway from you. We'll each do one. So looking at the college football playoffs right now, what is your one takeaway that's a benefit or a positive to a team or a player coming out of it when it's all said and done?
Say that one more time.
Okay. So when you look at the college football playoffs right now,
Yeah. Yes.
what is one takeaway or something people should pay attention to that after it's all over, you can look back and say, yeah, that was beneficial to that team, or yeah, that was beneficial to that player?
I think just the teams that get the open round home games.
Hmm.
Indiana has played in state college before, but like if we somehow get like an SEC team coming up, in late December to state college, it gets cold. So like those, like that's cool. Like hosting playoff games in college football, like that's super dope.
Yeah.
They do it in like the lower levels, but I feel like not a lot of people watch that. But I think that first round bye would be huge. I mean, that first round home games would be huge. The first round, like the first round buys for the top 4 seeds, yes, but like those are, you're playing in neutral site games, and those teams are going to be playing conference championship games. So like, the buys it's going to be like a normal buy. It's not going to be like a month long bye week or anything like that. Like bowl games usually
Hmm.
are. But I think those first round home games are going to be massive for those teams, especially the
So
teams that would play up up in like the north and like have the teams from the
yeah.
south come up. I think that would be big too.
So the one we actually brought it up some, I think is Ashton Jeanty and then Boise State. Not Boise State itself, but Ashton Jeanty can help his draft stock with a lot of this, because if he starts to go up against bigger competition, they can't then say, well, he hasn't gone up against anyone. If he puts up like 150 yards against an Ohio State or
Mm-hmm.
even like Georgia or Penn State, you're gonna say, all right, you know what, he's legit. He did it on like both stages. Because they were saying the same type of stuff for Carson Wentz, although we know how that turned out when he was
Mm-hmm.
at Mr. The Dakota State. And then you saw Trey Lance, same thing that happened there. So kind of being able to see him go up against top talent, any of them. It could be Texas, Miami, Oregon, Ohio State, any of them. If he were to even win the game, I say him because he's carrying that team. If he were to win the game and they were to move on to the semis, that says a lot. If they were to go to a championship, he's going to be in a bigger conversation. So that's kind of the main thing there. As always, I like to turn this over to the big boys after this. And there's a lot of things that I want to talk about on this side. Number one, in terms of the NFL, for anyone that doesn't know, we have Thanksgiving Day games. What are your thoughts, number one, on Thanksgiving Day games, especially 4 days after Sunday games, and then also the new Black Friday games, which this year it's going to be the Chiefs and the Raiders?
Yeah, I'm all about it. The Thanksgiving Day games are always. I mean, these games this year are gonna be pretty shitty. Especially that Giants Cowboys game.
You got
But
backups.
it's tradition. It's part of it. The Cowboys. I mean, the Bears Lions might not be that bad, but I mean, it's all day, dude. Like it's 12:30, and final games at
Hmm.
8:20. Love that. Raiders Chiefs. It's on Prime. Okay, I'm down. 3:00. That's kind of weird. Wait a minute.
Hmm.
Huh. Is that because there's college
Hmm.
football on, or it's on Prime Video?
Uh,
So like,
it's a mixture. It's, they don't want to take up the Friday night because I guess other sporting events and stuff, but also they wanted to find a way to get that Black Friday game in.
sure. In college football's defense, they've been doing the Friday games right after Thanksgiving for years now. But I mean, and then you got Monday Night Football. So then,
Yep.
like
You
there's
take
nothing
up the
better.
whole weekend.
Like there's nothing better. I mean, this week you get football every day, and it's the best.
Yeah.
Sign me up, dude. Sign me up.
Hmm.
There's no buys this
So,
week. Like
bingo.
no
So,
buys.
for anyone out there that listens to this and plays fantasy football, Steven said the magical word. There are no buys this week. but next week it is hell on earth with buys. And
Good
that's
luck.
the one thing people does not understand. Like, I don't know how they create these schedules because you have so many buys next week, and it's a lot of the teams that a lot of people like to end up seeing. Granted, the Bills are just on buy, so you kind of get them to come back. But for anyone that doesn't know, so next week we have like it's a bajillion teams. When I find it, I'll let you know. But
Denver, Indy, New England, Washington, Baltimore, Houston.
yeah. So
That's a
you
lot.
even because a lot of people have the Baltimore players, or even Baltimore is just a team people like to watch. Houston, same thing, and Denver. And that's the one I wanted to talk about. So thank you for saying those because I said it before. I talked to people at work about it. I talked to friends about it. People have put so much focus on Jaden Daniels winning Rookie of the Year that they are forgetting about the one that might actually win Rookie of the Year, and that's
Yeah.
Bo Nix. Because what he is doing there is something else. But what do you have to say?
If Jaden Daniels doesn't throw a Hail Mary and win the game against the Bears, then we're not talking about him.
See,
Like, I think it's pretty much that simple. And I don't know what the expectations were for the Broncos after they let Russell Wilson go. That's the reason why we knew about the Broncos the last 2 seasons was because of Russell Wilson. But Bo Nix, he was getting buzz coming out of college when he was at Oregon. He was in college for 7 years. That's another thing. It's like
yeah,
he's like Dalvin Connect. But he's been around for a while. So like, yes, he's an older starting quarterback, whatever. But like he's been there, he's been around for a while. So he knows the thing. And I think it's a great mix for Sean Payton. I think also the expectations of like, it's not this year wasn't like a Super Bowl run for the Broncos. But like, either what, they're 7-5,
yeah,
6-5, 7-5. I don't think they're going to win that division, but like they could definitely get a wild card in that division because that division,
7-5.
Chargers, like, I don't know how much confidence I have in the Chargers. Johnson just fucking sucks, dude. I mean, the drops,
Yo,
bro. The
yo. But he's
worst.
been doing it, but it wasn't on prime time. So people now see it.
Man, that's ugh. Anyway, but yeah, I think the Broncos can make a little run. Again, Bo Nix is no slouch. I think he's a great match with Sean Payton. They just need to keep building around him, and they'll be a problem for the next 10 years, ideally. Maybe not with Sean Payton, but definitely Bo Nix.
Yeah. So that's kind of the first piece I want to bring up. There's a game I want to talk about, but I want to let the game happen as we get to it. But as always, going into the game picks, the first one, Bears Lions.
Lions.
Yep. So that's kind of it. That might be until they stop blowing out teams. I'm just going to keep going with them. Giants Cowboys. Tommy DeVito might not play for the Cowboys. It is still Cooper Rush, and they just beat the Commanders.
I'm not picking this game. You can pick for me. I refuse.
So I'm going with the
Here.
Cowboys.
I'll flip a coin. I'll flip a coin. Heads is Cowboys. Tails is Giants. It's Tails, Giants.
Okay, so he's going with the Giants on that one. That's legit how that game is. Dolphins Packers.
I'll go Packers. It's in Green Bay. Yeah, I'll go Packers. I think if it was in Miami, maybe, but I'll go Packers.
Listen, all I have to say, and people don't understand this, whenever Miami goes north during the winter months, they don't do well. It's Green Bay. You can kind of guess how it might end up turning out. The next one, Raiders Chiefs.
Chiefs.
I'm going with the Chiefs. Chargers Falcons. Two things. One, the Chargers look good outside their wide receiver issues that they have, and then the Falcons look like they might run away with that division at this point. But who do you have?
I'll go. I just said they're not that good, but I'll go Chargers. I think they're a better team.
So I'm only going with the Falcons because Captain Kirk, aka in Atlanta, is doing something different. Drake London's resurged. Kyle Pitts is here and there, and Bijan Robinson finally seems as though he can play much better than he has with Arthur Smith. Steelers Bengals.
Steelers. I don't think that game against the Browns I
It
don't think
means nothing.
that was an anomaly. Someone had to win that game, and I even said again, I said the same thing about the
Yep,
Ravens losing to the Browns. I said the same thing about the Steelers losing to the Browns. They had
they're
a
divisional
monster
games.
win against. They had a monster win, turn right back around on Thursday in Cleveland. If that okay, like it's easy to say if that game was like it was in the first half. I think the Steelers win that game. But you gotta give credit to Jameis Winston. But I'm not like I wasn't surprised. I think I picked the Steelers to win, but I wasn't surprised that they lost. And I even called it like this guy that game can
Yeah, you
happen.
did.
But I think the Steelers win this game against Cincy. And Cincy's favored by 3.
Yeah.
So that's a toss
So
up.
I have
One
this
team usually gets 3 anyways.
because they're playing at home.
Yeah.
Whenever that home team in these divisional games, so I don't put as much into it. I got the Steelers in this one. Cardinals Vikings.
Um I'll go Cardinals.
Okay, I was not expecting them to say that.
Yeah,
I got
I'll go
the
Cardinals.
Vikings. Colts Patriots.
Colts.
So this is kind of one of those toss-up games, but I'm going with the Patriots in this one. If you want to end up going in between those lines and not play the correct way, that's on you. But I can't do anything once you go inside of those white lines. If you know who said that, you're a good person and follow the NFL. Seahawks Jets.
Horrible thing to say.
It's
It's like just don't say that, dude. Like you can say that in private, but don't say that out loud in front of a microphone. We're all gonna hear it because that's just a bad look. I mean, he could have just said like, just do your job, and that would have been the same thing basically. That's just an
I
easier way
have
to
no
put it.
control over it.
I'll go Seahawks. The Jets are just a mess, dude.
Do you
Yeah,
think? Okay, so he was on the Pat McAfee show as usual, and he said he wants to play in New York next year. One, I think that that's lip service, and he of course has to say the right things. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, if they sign a quarterback or they draft a quarterback, I think that tells you all you need to know. They're
Hmm.
not going to have someone sit behind Aaron Rodgers for like, 3 seasons because obviously he's not going to give them that. So I think if they, you start hearing those rumors once the season. Now we got to wait till the season ends. And, see how they finish up and maybe something happens sooner. I doubt it, but
Hmm.
yeah. Are you asking me if I think he's gonna be in New York next year? I would say yes, because like where else is he gonna
Okay,
go? Like where else is he gonna go for like a year? Does any team really want that want Aaron Rodgers for a year? He turns 41 on Monday. Like, does anybody
he's not
want
Tom
Aaron Rodgers?
Brady.
Does anybody want Aaron Rodgers for another year or like 2? Like that's all you're gonna get from him, and like you're not gonna win Super Bowl clearly. I mean, maybe if like he goes to like just the perfect spot, but you start going up and down the list, like where's the perfect spot for him to land? Like, so there's like no. I mean, I'm looking at all these teams right now, thinking about where he could potentially land next year. Like you send him to the Giants for a year, like
I know.
just leave him in New York or just switch teams. He's not going to the Raiders or anything. Hold on, I'm just going through all these teams. Like New England's got their guy. Indy's got their guy. The Titans. I mean, he's not going to take a step back in organization. The Jags, maybe they get rid of Trevor Lawrence. No, I think he stays in New York.
There's no place. It's
No,
that
there's
or
not.
Cleveland,
Like,
and Cleveland already has too much money tied up.
yeah, no. So I think he stays in New York, just kind of like by default.
Hmm.
But I'm picking the Seahawks in that game.
So I have the Seahawks. The other thing, did you hear about the owner pulling up on the field, and then Joe Douglas ended up getting fired?
Yeah, that
So
fucking organization's a mess, dude.
wild. Both the New York organizations are crazy. Titans, Commanders.
Titans with a big win against the Texans. Commanders about to fall apart, maybe? Question mark. I'm gonna go Titans actually.
So I'm going with the Titans as well. Texans, Jaguars.
Fuck the Jags.
Fuck
Going
the
with the
Jags.
Texans.
There ain't nothing. Their tickets are as low as $16 to
Yeah,
just
that's
get in the
tough.
stadium.
That's tough to see.
Uh, that's all you need to know about that one. Bucks Panthers.
Bucks.
So I have the Bucks in that one. So we're doing perfect with time because I wanted to spend time on this next game. And this next game, if anyone has ever heard me throughout this whole season, I talk so much shit on both these teams for reverse psychology, and now this is the toughest game for me to pick. Also, this is one of the big ticket games that a lot of people like to see, especially on the East Coast. The Eagles versus the Ravens.
Well, fuck the Ravens. Go Birds. Saquon Barkley is the MVP candidate
Not
leading
used,
right now.
yeah.
My man had 302 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I was talking to my neighbor, who's a Philly fan.
Mm-hmm.
He had 270-yard runs. So that's 140 yards right there. Most time when that
Yeah.
happens, guys will end up with like a $160, a $170, right? Like they're not going to have those 200-yard days. My man had another 110 yards after that. And it just like, you just felt like when you watched that game, and we all did because it was prime time, you watch that game and like he was busting off like 7, 8, 9 yards a clip. And you're like, okay, like it's gonna, like these 20-yard runs, 30-yard runs are gonna happen. 70, I mean, and he looks like, or like rookie season Saquon Barkley, just with a dramatically better offensive line. Do you see the stat? This is a crazy stat about his yards before contact. When he was with the Giants for what, six seasons, whatever, he was averaging 1.4 yards before contact. So like barely getting past the offensive line or the line of scrimmage. Now he's averaging like 2.5, which like, you know, the casuals, it might not seem like a lot, but you're giving Saquon Barkley almost 2.5 yards like before he gets hit. So you're giving him enough time to get going a little bit. All he needs is like the tiniest crease. And that's probably the best offensive line in football. And when you're
1000%.
giving a guy like that, I mean, imagine they had Kelsey still, like what they would be doing. Like, yeah, I mean, they'd be doing very, very similar things, but like with the receivers being in and out of the lineup, AJ Brown had a big game. Jalen Hurts isn't like, you know, I think they're starting to hit a stride, but I also think he's starting to hit a stride. I mean, Barkley's on pace for over 2,200 yards and probably like 20 to 23 touchdowns. I think Lamar Jackson fucked up the MVP race as of now against Pittsburgh. Josh Allen's still up there, but I think Barkley, 300 yards, dude, in an NFL game, like that is so impressive.
Yeah.
Like that's so impressive. That's very tough to do. So I think he's the leading candidate for the MVP right now. And if he has a big game against Baltimore, I'm not gonna say it's over with MVP. He's still got to put up the, you know, finish the season. But if he puts up a big game against Baltimore in Baltimore, you know, against the reigning MVP, and against, especially if he has a big game and outduels Derrick Henry, which the Ravens defense is playing better, but they're still not great. I don't know anyone who would trust the Ravens defensive line versus the Eagles offensive line. Now the Ravens defensive line is very good. It's, again, they're starting to come around, but I'm still trusting the Eagles offensive line all day. And God, I hope Barkley has another 200 yards against the Ravens.
So that's the tough part because the Ravens secondary is some shit, but the Ravens front seven can be stout.
It's getting there. Getting there.
Yeah, it is. But the big thing that a lot of people are failing to realize, so they lost Jason Kelsey, which is a huge loss, but they have Mekhi Becton, who
Monster.
He is a monster. Like
Monster.
if you look at the tape of him, like that is solid. You have
they got,
him,
what's
of course,
his name back?
Lane Johnson.
And they got, what's his name back at right tackle?
Jordan Mailata.
Yeah. He's a big boy too.
He is.
God damn.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So Steven can even say this from his team, but I've seen a lot of these players when they were backups on the team. Like this wasn't their original starting five up front for them because Jordan Mailata was not necessarily that one. We had the one guy that used to play for the Texans. So it would be like Jason Kelsey, the dude from the Texans, and then you would have Lane Johnson. That was like your solid group that you had a couple years ago. Lane Johnson is the only one that is still holding the rock. And I remember when my man got drafted. So that shows you the Cowboys did it best when they just drafted straight offensive line throughout this draft. And DeMarco Murray looked like the greatest thing on earth, and then you put him on another team, and then there was a lot of flaws. So that offensive line helps, and then you have the best running back in the league behind that. Then you have Jalen Hurts, who he doesn't even have to do anything. He can just stand there, and then he's going to create at least one person looking at him.
I,
Saquon is not going to go backwards, jumping backwards on other teams if he was on that.
no. And I think also this Eagles team, especially Barkley, I think like they're only gonna get better. And like he's gonna start hitting that stride back half of the season. I think like he's gonna start to get better. And I don't think they're gonna have an issue like getting Devontae Smith back in the lineup. Like I think they're gonna be fine with that because I don't think it's gonna be a focal point. Like they're not gonna they're gonna have to end up they're not gonna have to rely on those receivers because they're going to be Saquon Barkley until teams start to slow him down. I mean, he's going to get 20, 25 touches a game, like minimum, which he should because he's that dude right now, which is awesome. Because shout out to Penn State for that.
Shout out. So my two things, and I'll of course give my picks. So I'm going with the Eagles in this one. As much as I want to go with the Ravens, they both have terrible secondaries, but one just has a great wide receiver. One team does not. That's really what's going to separate it. They both have good quarterbacks, both have amazing running backs. One team just has a receiver. The other one, they said Nelson Aguilar has been in the league for 10 years. And I thought that was the most insane thing I've ever heard.
10 years?
10 years.
Damn.
And they were like, a lot of that is because of Bill Belichick giving him that contract when he was in New England. And I'm just like, this man is still floating around. You have Rashad Bateman, and then you also have Deontay Johnson. None of them are great wide receivers. But what I can tell you is that Baltimore Ravens secondary is some shit. Like, I think that they're as bad as the Jaguars. So you're telling me you got A.J. Brown, who can easily have a 100-yard game. And then if he starts taking the top off, Saquon Barkley can have a field day. So
agreed. Yep.
That's one thing. The other side is everyone last year was very impatient saying like, oh, they are the Georgia Eagles and stuff like that. It took time. They were rookies. So now you're starting to see them all come alive throughout this season. What's up?
And what's his name is out for the season now? Graham. Which I've never seen that happen before. Dude in the locker room say, "Hey, yeah, I'm done for the season." Like, no, what's up? And he's like, "Yeah, throw my tricep." Like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Like,
and only in sports. Looking at it.
Only in sports.
Only in sports.
Only in sports. Can you just be like, "Yeah, throw my tricep today"? Like, no big deal.
Yeah. Like, I was like, no. Yo, I thought he was fine. Some people were like, he's joking around. They're like, no, he's serious. But that's just crazy. So his career is over. I don't think he's coming back. That's what he was saying. But although we just talked about the Eagles Ravens as the big game, the 49ers Bills looks like it's going to be a snow game. Who you got?
Bills. I think they're probably one of the two best teams in the league, maybe. Them and the Lions. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen's he's playing great. I'm gonna go Bills. Love a good snow game.
Yeah, I got the Bills as well. 49ers need a win, but I could see the Bills in the snow winning. Last one, Browns Broncos.
Broncos Nation, let's ride, dude.
I got the same thing. So Broncos Nation. What you got?
It's the holidays, man. Gonna eat it up on Thursday. No Diddy. Pause.
Yes.
But yeah, thankful for a lot. We've been doing this for how long now? 5 years? 4 years?
4 years. Yeah. You've been doing it 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, good times, Mm-hmm. It's funny. I was at a birthday happy hour last week, Friday, and I had someone was like asking me like, about this, and I was like, yeah, we just chop it up, man, just like we would like we were just sitting around, like everyone started doing a podcast, so like why not? Do we get millions of views and listeners? Not yet, but
not yet. That's the big thing.
We are powered by StreamYard, so
we are.
we need to get some coin in this game. But yeah, are you doing anything? Are you going family? What are you doing?
So big thing is I finally just finished the move. So my dad's just coming in town, and the family's probably gonna look. My family got to the point of they don't even want to cook anymore. They just start going to a restaurant. So I said next year, since I'm on my feet, we're coming over to mine. and like we're cooking. Like forget this whole going to a restaurant. That's when we become lazy. So that's the big thing for this year. But yeah. So, but
what a restaurant? I need to know.
You know, my dad didn't even say. He said just be ready like 3 or 4 o'clock.
Be ready. What's open? What's open? Like,
it's
where
a
are you
place
guys
in Alexandria.
Damn, bro. You guys probably the only people there too. Damn. Going to the Chinese buffets.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Exactly.
I need to know this. Let me know where you guys go.
Oh, for sure. I'll end up making sure that everyone knows this because we did it last year too, and
That's
we were
crazy.
like, no way. And we thought last year was just an anomaly, and my dad was like, "No, we're doing it again this year." I was like, I could have gone over any of my friends' houses to end up being with them, yet I'm doing this.
That's so good.
Like, there's no leftovers. There's nothing.
Bro, it's not even like it's not. It's just like it's Thanksgiving, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just chill at home.
No.
Just chill at home. That's good though. All right.
So yeah. I got 2 things that I wanted to tell everyone about. So I'm not going to say the name because some people are trying to figure out where I work, but I will say everyone wonders like why we call it 2 a.m. in Sweden. Essentially, we're about to have an episode 2 a.m. in Sweden in 2 weeks because I'll be over there. I'm going there for a week, and then so some of the coworkers were like, "Yo, you come in on Sunday. Like, we want to end up hanging out with you. So in the afternoon, we're gonna pick you up from your hotel. We're gonna go eat, and then we're probably gonna go chill in some of the places around the town." And then they're married, so they were like, "This isn't gonna be a strip club. Don't worry, Christian, but we're gonna end up taking you out." And I'm like, does Sweden even have strip clubs? Like,
yo, I bet that shit is so lovely. Those Swedish women, good God, they have to.
Like, hold on.
So everybody's got one.
Say that.
Everybody's got one.
Yeah, but I was like, you brought that up, so now I'm gonna be curious and like try and research like where it is. If you don't take me, I know one of the other coworkers will take me because now I got to figure out what the hell it's like.
Just be careful. Just be careful.
Yeah. So then the other part of being careful, we did an interview the other day, and I can't talk to my coworkers about it, but I could talk to the world about it. And so it was me and 2 other people interviewing this guy who's also in the industry. Number one, the director who's hiring for this position popped us in during the interview. Number 2, the person we were interviewing sat too far away from us, so they were like, "Oh, such and such, like you could scoot down." And then he was like, "All right, yeah, I'll scoot down too." And then the director who's interviewing said, "Or I mean, you could just sit on top of the president's lap." And I was like, "All right, we can nope, this stuff does not fly in other places."
No, done. HR's gonna show up at the door real quick.
That's number 2. Number 3, the guy, he said, "I've been traveling so much on my other job. Like, I don't want to keep doing this traveling. Like, every time I try and go on a date with the girl, I have to be like, by the way, I'm going to be gone for 2 to 3 weeks after this. So we probably won't be able to have a serious relationship." And in my head, I'm like, I don't give a damn. Like, you chose to interview for this stuff. We didn't ask you to. So now you're asking that.
I don't even know about your personal life, bro. I don't give a fuck, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
Do not care.
So that happened. Then he started talking shit about other companies in the industry and then his company. And I said, these are red flag after red flag after red flag. And so, mind you, I told you there's only 2 or 3 Black people at my job. So one of the younger white girls, she messages me today saying like, "Hey, do you have a minute so I could talk to you about the interview that you had yesterday? I just want your feedback." Whenever someone ever says, "I want your feedback," that means we probably are thinking the same. I just want to double check if it's the same.
Yes.
And so that's exactly what happened today. But that's all I have in terms of story time with Hayes. There will definitely be stories next week because you know it happens on Thursday and we are not eating at home. So until next time, we out.
Peace.